Well, hello there. Always nice to see your smiling faces. Guys, this is going to be something just a little bit different. We're going to take the high-speed train all the way from Beijing back to Shanghai, and we're going to do this in real time. Now, obviously, this is not the full-time real time, as that would take approximately 4.5 hours on the high speed from Beijing all the way back to Shanghai, which really isn't a bad ride and isn't a bad time considering the train only stops once in Nanjing, but we're not going to sit for 4.5 hours. As it is, we're only going to sit for just a fraction of that. And as it would have it, the more interesting part, as you get a first class, and I do mean first class, view out the window. Now, we're starting here in Beijing at the train center and what is called Beijing Nan, or Beijing South Station. The seat selection is pretty booked. There was not one free seat, but there was a lot of standing. So you got folks that are getting on the train and standing the entire way, which honestly probably sucks. But if there's a free seat, people will take it. As we booked early, we were fortunate that we didn't have to stand and we had seats all along the way. Now, the train is actually quite nice. It's like an airplane, but better. You've got nice seats that recline all the way back. You've got your tray for meals and a lot of leg room, much more than you'll find on a 747, which is great. Now, as we start going here, you'll see that the train station, even though it's pretty well late at night, still pretty clean. I like that. So, the trains, much like you can expect in Japan, are always on time as well. Now, if you get hungry, the nice thing about the high-speed train is there is a dining car, which you can go visit and get all sorts of stuff, some cooked, some pre-made. Also, there's a little QR code on the seat, so if you want to order something mid-flight or mid-train, as it were, no problem. Scan a QR code, see what's available, and voila, at your next stop, food will be waiting for you, and they'll disseminate that along the way. This is probably better on a more long-distance train ride, as this particular one was the fastest service between Beijing and Shanghai, and there was only one stop in Nanjing. So if I was to scan the QR code to get a meal mid-journey, as it were, the only option I had was in Nanjing. And as it was, the only thing I found was just a couple of instant noodles that could be delivered and some Burger King. Ooh, Burger King. Yes, that authentic Nanjing Burger King. It's a must-have, let me tell you. So, as we start going along the way here, the train will kick up, and it starts going up to about 320 kilometers an hour. That's over 200 miles an hour for U.S. aficionados that haven't quite transitioned to the metric system yet. Don't worry, you probably won't. Although quietly they say the U.S. did transition to the metric system back in the 1970s, it's pretty much military only, as most of the U.S. infrastructure is still pretty much on the imperial system, and likely will be, as it will cost billions and billions of dollars to replace all the signs, and we've just gone off on a completely random rabbit trail. Yes, that's right. So, as we're taking off here, you'll notice the lights are still on. It's late at night. It was approximately 9 p.m. as we took off, and that's what I like. You can see all sorts of things. In the daylight, you can see all the fields and rice paddies and whatever else as you're cruising along. From Beijing, we're going to go approximately east until we hit the port city of Tianjin, in which case we turn due south and head straight for Nanjing and then towards the coast at Shanghai. And as this was a pretty much non-stop train, it was quick. So what do I like about the high-speed train in China? Well, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's quick. If they say that train is leaving at 8:56 p.m., well, you probably should be on the train just a few minutes earlier, as the doors will close without preamble. There's only like a couple of chimes, and boom, it's closed. And if you're not on, you're buying a new ticket. That's just how it is. Now, along the way, yes, they may stop at a few more stations along the way, for maybe 5, or 7 minutes max, and you'll have the usual suspects jump off the train, light up for a quick cigarette break. But again, if you're not back on that train when it's scheduled to leave, you're getting a new train. It's always kind of funny to see the guys that didn't anticipate the time, and of course, as the train shuts the door and they realize they're like, oh! And they kind of freak out a little bit, but not much they can do. They're getting a new train, and of course they have to arrange what to do with their baggage, which is on the train they just missed. It is what it is. Now, on the train itself, surprisingly, pretty quiet. Most people, at least on the trains I've been in China, are orderly for the most part. Yes, you will have occasional kids running around a little bit. It's to be expected on a long distance journey. Yeah, you'll have people that had their TikTok, or Douyin as it's called locally, turned up pretty high, and you get to listen to random dancing. And then you have the stewardesses that are wandering around collecting trash. Occasionally they'll ask if anybody wants milk tea or coffee or tea or some of the drink, ice cream, fruit. They'll call that out as on the way. Yes, of course, you could go to the dining car and get that yourself, but if you're so inclined, they'll bring it to you. There you go. And as I said earlier, if you don't like those options, you could either scan the QR code on the armrest of your chair, order something else, which will be delivered at the next stop, or just do what most people do and just bring it on. They're really not shy about bringing food or drinks in from outside, as long as you don't make a mess. And since the stewardesses are coming by to collect trash occasionally anyway, nice, you just give them your trash and you're done. So this last time we brought some nuts, a couple of drinks with us, a couple of coffees we got at Tim Hortons, and we were good to go. When we were done with it, stewardesses come by, frequently grab the trash. You'll also see them coming by occasionally with a broom and a mop and sweeping up, which is great. And like I said, it's quiet. The only thing I really hear as we're going along is the occasional whistle from other trains going past us, and of course the whole train kind of moves a little bit because, well, if we're moving at 320 kilometers an hour and the opposite train is doing that as well, here's some noise. You pass another station along the way, and yeah, you do hear a little noise from the other station as well. But as this was a non-stop train, didn't stop through a lot of stations. We just kept on going. I think the train slows down a little bit, but for the most part, it keeps on trucking. So for those of you who've never had the pleasure, nay the privilege of traveling on a high-speed train, it's basically like traveling on an airplane. You get up to the station just like an airplane or airport station. You wait in line for the security. They check your bags, they check your tickets, they check your ID, and you go through. Now the difference is, once you get into the train station, unlike an airport, it is pretty much like a giant sardine can. There are people everywhere, all over the place, and nary a seat to be found. Now, that's not a big deal because, you can always walk around, and since you'll be sitting for hours anyway, you know what, it's not a big deal to stand. There's going to be a lot of eateries, your McDonald's, KFCs, a lot of local Chinese eateries, some place to buy some overpriced bags if you're really into that sort of thing. And then, of course, you have to wait to be called. Again, just like an airport. Now, the difference is typically if your train is going to be leaving at X time, most people kind of start lining up early. Now, the difference here is with an airport, there's not really a big difference between getting on an airplane first or getting on an airplane later. Train, oh yeah, big difference. And here's why. A lot of people kind of travel standby. And if they travel standby and there's an available seat, they'll get in it. So more likely than not, if you are traveling on a train and you don't board it immediately when it's your time to board, chances are when you get on the train, surprise, there's somebody sitting in your seat. How lovely. You show them your ticket, and most of the time they'll be kind of reluctantly get out of your seat and looking for another free seat. Also, there is limited spaces on the train to put your bag. If you got a carry-on, a big duffel bag, what have you, you want to have places to put on the overhead. Otherwise, you need to kind of put it in the back or on the side areas between the cars, which is probably not a problem, but like anything else, and if you've seen that movie that came out, Bullet Train, not too long back, you know that there's always a chance that somebody may nick your bag. I don't think that's a big problem in China, but you're always kind of worried about these things. And like that Brad Pitt movie, yeah, I do worry about somebody monkeying about with my bag. So we got in the line for the train right away. Once you get in there, of course, they call your name. You go through, again, just like an airport, and you're off the races. The one caveat or difference is a lot of times they're not equipped to handle foreign passports and or IDs. So you need to get in the self-check lane where they kind of glance at your passport. Whether they can read it or not, who knows, but they can obviously identify the number, match it up to your ticket, and haha, here we go. You go through the security again and down an escalator, and suddenly you're walking with all the trains. You usually got to walk quite a distance to get to your train. Once you get to your train, you need to look for what car you're in and what seat you're in. It's all printed on your ticket. Not a big deal. Find your ticket, find your seat, and have a seat. And again, like I was saying earlier, be on time. Because if you're not, well, unfortunately, the train's going to leave without you. And then, of course, you need to go through all the hoopla and kerfuffle of obtaining new tickets. Oh yeah, fun, particularly during any holiday in China where tickets are at a premium and are often sold out. You may find yourself not having a seat after a while, or even a train. Not fun. So once you're on the train and it leaves, then of course it's just time to kind of sit and reflect, relax, tilt your seat back, real easy. And on the high-speed trains, not only is there Wi-Fi, and not slow Wi-Fi either, it's pretty fast Wi-Fi. Fast Wi-Fi on a fast train. Go figure. But also there's charging points for all your electronic goodies, and lots of hooks to hang things, which I kind of like. I like that ability to hang my bag up in front of me, put my other bag down below, and my big suitcase up above. Again, it is way more comfortable than traveling on an airplane. Something else, if you're not actually used to riding the high-speed train, is you may think the train has to turn around once it pulls in the station. Contraire, my friend, they go both ways. Double entendre, absolutely not intended. But the caveat here is because the train does go both ways, you'll find the seats actually rotate 180 degrees around. So as you're getting on the train, if you get on before they've had a chance to clean the train, you'll notice one of the train carriage ladies is walking around, and she does some sort of witchcraft, pulls some lever, wiggles her nose or something, and the seats just flip around 180 degrees and lock into place. So you'll definitely want to wait for that. Don't try to sit down, or you could have a rude awakening as you are suddenly violently thrust around 100 degrees facing the way the train is intended on going. So, yeah, like anything else, an ounce worth of preparedness goes a long way. Once you're on the train, however, what are you going to do other than sit there? Now, obviously, you could take a nap, but plan your seat accordingly. If you are in a center seat, they usually range, if you're in like the second class, of course, there'll be 3 seats on one side and 2 on the other. Whereas the first class is going to have 2 on either side, and your business class will have 1 on one side and 2 on the other. So plan your seat. If you want to have a little more comfort, you may want to consider upgrading your seat. But even in the regular seat section, there's still not a problem. I got a seat against the window, and I can just lean my head against the window. And don't like sunlight? Not a big deal. Well, we traveled during the night from Beijing to Shanghai, but if you're traveling during the day, which we did on the way to Beijing, there's a big curtain you can pull down, and you don't not get blinded or anything else, and have a nice little area to sleep in. Or if you just want to wander about, hey, lots of people doing it. You can wander all the way from one end of the train to another, which technically speaking, if the train is moving at 320 kilometers an hour and you're moving forward, you're moving faster than a high-speed train. Wow, physics, such a cool thing, right? But along the ways, there is bathrooms, lots of them. And here's a shocker. They're actually clean. The toilets on the high-speed train come in 2 varieties. You have the regular Eastern toilet, aka the squatty potty, which is just basically, it's a galvanized metal squatting area where if you're cool with that. It's, not a problem. Lots of areas. Some people, if they use the Eastern toilet, will go in there and, take your pants off because you don't want to take a chance on, but, need I say more? But if you're not comfortable with that, not a problem. They have a fully equipped Western toilet that's clean. Not a problem. And it's actually pretty big. It's big enough that you could actually go in there with a wheelchair if you, are disabled or whatever, or you just want more room. Not a problem. Now, there is a sink in the bathrooms on the high-speed train, but I don't advise using them because they're smaller and they don't often have soap. Like a lot of bathrooms in China, they got water, not necessarily soap. But directly outside the bathrooms, both the Eastern and Western counterpart bathrooms, which are in every single car, by the way, on the train, there's a little sink on the opposite side that has soap and a mirror if you want to, check your hair or whatever, wash your hands with soap, dry. There's paper towels provided, and there's even electrical sockets if you needed to, let's say, shave or whatever else. Yeah, no problem. Knock yourself out. Plenty of room. Now, here is the thing. Because the bathrooms are usually at the head of each car on the train, there's usually 15 cars per train. And if you happen to be traveling during a busy time, aka the holiday, such as like the May holiday, National Day holiday, whatever else in China, be prepared that this area is probably going to be slightly busy, aka there's going to be a lot of people that are just kind of hanging out, sitting on their bags, sitting on the floor, whatever else. So, like anything else, if it's too busy, no problem, just walk to the next car. Walk around people, not a big deal. Most people are pretty courteous. They're not going to give you a hard time. Holidays are kind of a funky thing in China in that most holidays may end up being 2 or 3 days, but they're going to rearrange the weekends in such a way to give the holiday the max amount of time. So, for example, this recent holiday we had in May, which would have been like May 1st to 4th, ended up being an extra 2 days because they'll end up rearranging the weekends in most businesses in China so as to give you more time off. The downside is, of course, that people will have to work on the weekends. Yay! It's not that big a deal, but just be aware that that's how it occurs. So if you happen to show up and you are traveling, be aware there will be people traveling up into the last day because they are also maximizing their holiday. So you get on the high-speed train, no problem. Once you're on, again, not much different than an airplane, except obviously the aforementioned comfort, bathrooms, be able to order takeout, so forth and so on. So you think at this point, it's not much different. Well, again, there are a few more differences. Once we're on the train, things are pretty much relaxed, but people have low patience. Now, when you are on an airplane and it's getting ready to land, most people have nowhere else to go, obviously, because the plane has to taxi and then go up to the airport, in which case you have to wait for them to open the doors, and then of course you can't really go anywhere because the aisles are very narrow, right? Well, the train is going to be different. Now, while the aisle in the train isn't much wider than the aisle on an airplane, and there's only one, whereas most airplanes will have 2 aisles, people are going to be in a frantic mess and hurry to get off the train. This means as the train starts slowing down, getting ready to get into the station, people are already grabbing suitcases, grabbing their stuff, and they're already in the aisles, ready to go. Slammed up against the door like a pack of sardines, ready to run like a greyhound at race day. So, no problem. Your choices are A, do what the locals do and get in line, get ready to get off, and get ready to run like a rabbit, or sit down, relax. Understand? It's going to be a little bit. In our case, we definitely chose the latter because there's no way I'm going to be trying to fight my way through a bunch of people when chances are I'm not going to be able to get through them all anyway. And I had a couple of cases and my wife to, deal with. So honestly, it's just a matter of patience. As the train actually starts to get into the airport, into the train station, it begins to decelerate slowly. The train accelerates pretty quick, but as it's getting into the station, it's slow. And as you start pulling into the airport, into the train station. Why do I keep saying airport? And the train station is decelerating very slowly, and finally the other trains pull into view, and you can see, yes, I'm finally at the train station. Okay, get your stuff, put your tray table up, get ready to rock. But, get ready, because you're not getting off anytime soon. It's one of those things. Unfortunately, the train is its own unique animal in this regard. So after 4.5 hours in the high-speed train, which, by the way, was one of the faster high-speed trains from Beijing to Shanghai, I was more than ready to stretch my legs and get off. Now, the problem is, once they actually open up the door and we wait for everybody else to get off, because, oh yeah, they're so ready to run off and wait some more. Yep. Shanghai Hongqiao Rail Station is, well, again, one of those unique things, because there is one escalator that was open. Now, I'm sure during certain peak times of the day, maybe they'll open up more than one exit. In our cases, we were not so lucky. It was late at night, and they had one escalator, which means anyone who has a bag, and that's, well, pretty much everyone, as you can see here, is waiting in line for that one escalator. One escalator, which means, people are going to go single file, and they're all trying to take, their suitcases, anyone in wheelchairs, any babies in strollers. They're all trying to get down at one time. So you pretty much, again, are faced with a bottleneck, in which case you just have no choice but to stand in line and wait for people to get off, and there's just no way to get around it. You have to wait, which again is why I say is if you are pulling up in the high-speed train, don't be in a hurry to get off. Yes, be in a hurry to get on the train. Get on the train as soon as you can, so you can secure your area to put your bags, secure your seat in case anyone else is sitting in it. But as you get off, don't be in a hurry, because you will not go anywhere. It is one of these things where you just have to exercise a modicum of patience and, well, wait.
Welcome back to Shanghai.
So as we all know, China is a crowded country. Duh. And of course, as a tourist, it may seem time-consuming to wait in line for things, but there's no getting around it. Everywhere you go, you're going to be standing in line, you're going to have to wait. And of course, even in China, it is considered rude to cut in line. But a lot of people do it. As a matter of fact, I would say a good half of the people around do it. Now, it's not because people necessarily don't know it's rude. They do. But because of the sheer number of people, it's generally considered that if you're not first, you're last. So people kind of have this idea that I have to go first. You see that everywhere, even as we're standing here, waiting for the one escalator to get off of the train platform. Unfortunately, people are going to be kind of pushing and shoving at the front of the line. A lot of people are kind of standing back because they realize, hey, where are we going to go? But it is what it is. Now, it gets worse in different parts of China depending on what infrastructure you're in. For example, on the subway or metro trains, people should, in theory, be waiting to get on the train for people to get off first, I should say. They should be waiting for others to get off the train before they get on. But as the doors open, people will just try to gang rush their way into the train before other people even have had a chance to get off. On the high-speed train, I would say there's a little more etiquette, really. You see a lot of people on the fringes of this mob waiting to leave the line here. That some people are generally just kind of hanging out, sitting in their suitcases. Some kids running around playing with their little, roll-around luggage and whatever else, because, it is what it is. And if they don't have a choice, a lot of people are just generally going to have a little better line etiquette as it was. But in other places, no such luck. Forget it. So, at the bottom of this line, again, same thing, but it is what it is. I think we probably end up standing here for about a good 15-20 minutes just waiting for everyone to exit the train. So the final leg of the journey has been getting off the train and getting home. Now, you could take the metro home, the metro being the regular subway train, but when you've just been fresh off the high-speed train for nearly 5 hours and waiting and you got a couple of suitcases, yeah, who wants to do that, right? Answer, nobody. So the other thing is you can take a taxi. Now, taxis are, one of those things. They're a little bit hard to flag down, and of course you got to pay taxi prices. Now, fortunately, you have shared rides in China, just like Uber, but with China, they're called Didi, and they're generally a little cheaper. You have an app on your phone that you can flag one down virtually everywhere you're at and get a ride. It's not too bad. The airport or the train station, not much different. The problem is, literally everybody else is doing it. So you got to go to a certain area of the parking garage in order to flag down a shared ride, shared taxi, or a dedicated ride service such as Didi or Uber. And once you've waded through the virtual queue online, then of course you got to wait for the car to actually arrive. They're going to come to one area, and you try to communicate with your driver, let them know where you are, where they are, so that hopefully you guys can meet up. And while you're waiting for that, of course, you got to wait with everybody else it is. It turns into a little bit of a free-for-all madhouse, but it's not that bad, really. You can see a lot of people are just kind of waiting on the edge, waiting for their taxis as well, just like anyone else. And there's a wicked long line of taxis and Didis and Ubers coming into this section of the parking garage. Right now we're about a 10-minute walk from the train station, so it's not that bad. Once we actually get to this area is the time you could, well, I guess you could at this point bring up the app on your phone and start hailing your ride. But what we did, and I think most people do, is virtually before we even left the train, we're already on that app trying to flag a ride down. And of course, once you've gotten your ride, it'll let you know where they are, shows you a little map, where you are, and what your estimated time is. I think on ours it said we had about a 15-minute wait. It turned out being about 20 minutes waiting for the ride. It'll match you up with what type of vehicle it is, the plate number of the vehicle, and then you got to wait in line. We got a couple little managers and service people right here to kind of facilitate these ride-sharing apps, and of course the taxi drivers coming in. So not that bad. The thing that is different about the ride-sharing apps, though, is once you actually flag them down, then of course you got to deal with luggage. You have to deal with getting in and out in a somewhat organized chaos manner. So from the Shanghai Hongqiao railway station to my house is about 25 minutes. Man, once you're on board the ride-sharing app and on the taxi, it's really not that bad. Sit back, relax, take you all the way to the front door, and you're pretty much home free. So, yeah, all in all, it's not a bad experience. Like I said, much better than an airplane, although no free meal, but hey, you know what? It is what it is. Hope you guys enjoyed this high-speed trainway ride from Beijing to Shanghai, and of course the subsequent waiting to get on the taxi. If you like anything else, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you in the next video.
And just like that, we've reached the end of the video, which means you now have the opportunity to smash, wham, slam, and wallop that subscribe button, thus never again missing another SnarkyGuy video. And not too hard now, a keyboard is a terrible thing to waste. Click the bell icon to get notified, of course. In the meantime, here's a few more SnarkyGuy videos because
I know you're gonna dig this.